Yeah.
The live stream worked.
Well, I think are we live right now?
No, we are not.
It said we were.
Oh, we are live.
Well, hey, everybody. Sorry for the abrupt entrance there. We're still kind of setting some stuff up here. Thanks for joining us. A&M, you better stay put. Cease. A&M beats New Mexico 34-0. Cease, while I'm fixing this, what did you see from the game today?
Loved the start. Thought they came out, everybody 2 touchdowns and 4 plays. I said, oh my gosh, here they go. I shouldn't have picked it 45-7. It's going to be 60-some. And then, they hit some walls in the game. And I think Jimbo brought up the same thing in the post game. Not the killer instinct that I thought I would see against New Mexico, particularly after the start. And I was talking to somebody before this. Unfortunately, when you play opponents like this, a lot of times you'll hit the negative more than you'll do the positive because you just expect so much to happen. But I really came away from this game a little bit underwhelmed because with the way they started, and I didn't think, we didn't know about Colorado. New Mexico is not a good team. And I just thought A&M should have done better.
After the game, Jimbo Fisher told Alyssa Lang that he thought the team played average, and it really went back to, like he said, the physicality on the offensive line. The offensive line just flat out wasn't very good today. They averaging, I think, 2.4 yards per carry rushing in the first half. It got up to about 4.2, I think, looking at that. But still, against New Mexico, they're like the 77th ranked rush defense in the nation. You got to be able to, especially what A&M wants to do with a sophomore quarterback in his first start, you got to be able to establish the run a little bit better against a team like New Mexico, let alone next week, a team like Arkansas. I don't know. It's going to be a heck of a game against Arkansas if this A&M team shows up again next week.
Here's the deal is because we know A&M's got 2 guys that can run the football. So if the holes are there, they're going to get yardage. But a lot of times they're not getting yardage. And New Mexico was bringing a blitzer every time. I get it. But A&M's an SEC team. New Mexico's a Mountain West team. And I get it. At the point of attack, a lot of times their guy was the better guy. And I know I don't want to be those offensive linemen moving forward this week because last week, what everybody say, Colorado might be a good team. That front defensive 7 was really good. We saw the same thing again. Now they're missing Brian Robinson, but I think someone else, him too. But I think Jimbo touched on that. Hey, you should be able to plug somebody in there and move on, and they weren't able to do that.
Yeah, like he said, Layden Robinson was missing. They moved Kenyon Green from the outside to the inside, put Blake Traynor on the outside. Blake Traynor had himself a little bit of a rough game. A lot of pressure coming in on that side of the offensive line. New Mexico State, also a team that Jimbo Fisher even last week was talking about. They do stunts, twists, blitz from all kinds of different angles. They're going to work on an offensive line more so than a lot of teams they may face. So there was that going on, some changes, but still, Jimbo Fisher said it came back to physicality. When I asked Isaiah Spiller about it, he said he was not very happy with his offensive line. Both in the game, he was slapping the ground a lot after plays, and then afterwards, he said they were not having attention to detail in the game. Just flat out, not a great game for the offensive line.
I don't want to go ahead after 2 games, jump to a conclusion because I don't know enough input. But I think now I do have enough things to categorize because all I got to do is what do we hear all during fall camp? This is one of the best defensive lines in the country at A&M, and the offensive line is holding its own. Well, now we've seen A&M does have one of the best defensive lines in the country, and we saw today New Mexico couldn't do anything. But on the flip side, A&M's offensive line couldn't do anything. To me, that's the telling part because you have one side of the line that is so dominating against the same caliber competition, and A&M's offensive line through the first 2 quarters plus wasn't able to do anything. And I don't go by the final numbers because I think they wore New Mexico down. They're not going to be able to wear down Arkansas or Alabama or even Mississippi State.
Mm-hmm, definitely. Alex, what would you see from your end of the press box?
Yeah, A&M obviously looked better, but there's still a lot of improvement that they can have, as you guys have said. Missing Layden Robinson, that was kind of a big deal. Really shuffled some pieces around. Blake Trainer had his moments, but for the most part, he got beat quite often, and that was kind of a sore spot for the Aggies offensive line. Kenyon Green moving over to guard, showing his versatility. Jameer Johnson going out for a while. We saw Ruben Fothery come in, seeing his first significant action. And yeah, the SEC, as we've come to know, the game is won down in the trenches. And if A&M can't fix things up front, they're going to have a lot of hard times these next few weeks. The good news for the Aggies, though, is that the defensive line continues to be really strong. Like we said, it's won in the trenches. So this defense is gonna be able to help A&M carry itself probably in quite a few of these games we're going to see.
Yeah, it's a big boy football, as Jimbo Fisher said in his post-game press conference. The positives of the game were that A&M was, for the most part, able to move the ball through the air, and that was thanks to a lot of their kind of up-and-coming wide receivers. They have a guy that everyone, he put his name on Twitter, it's going to get all the retweets. It's Damon Demas. He got all the way behind New Mexico's defense, right down the middle of the field, no one within yards of him, and Zach Calzada put a on-the-money pass to him for a 70-yard touchdown. Moose Muhammad had a great over-the-shoulder one-handed touchdown catch from 7 yards out. Devin Morris, A&M consolidated.
Devin Price,
Morris.
Caldwell, defensive back.
There you go. Devin Price, he's going to shut. We're all Brazos Valley on this podcast. Devin Price, son of A&M coach Terry Price, had his first career catch today. A lot to be said about some of those young guys, and a lot to be said about Zach Calzada, who the game wasn't perfect, but it showed that he had growth from that Colorado game. And I think if he manages the game the way he did today, and the offensive line gives him the running game a little bit better health, he's a quarterback that can win football games.
Yeah, here's the deal. A couple of things. I was not impressed with Demas catching the touchdown pass because that was just a blown coverage by New Mexico. Alex Miller caught that and walked in. I liked his other catch. I liked Muhammad's catch across the middle. I liked his touchdown catch. So, yes, I like the young receivers. I actually like Calzada because I think what happened was he had a few drops. The line started getting beat, and then he wasn't comfortable. I thought he started to get comfortable because he felt his offensive line was going to do the job. The offensive line didn't do the job, and then I thought he got a little bit concerned. I would too if I was behind that offensive line. So, yeah, Cessna, you're going to dump on the offensive line? Yeah, I am, because they're experienced. They should carry their quarterback, and early on, they weren't good. Great play calling by Jimbo. He was able to dissect, get the ball out, do this. But then New Mexico able to win the battle up front, put pressure on Calzada, 3 sacks. Yeah, he should have thrown the ball away, but he's worried about his offensive line. He threw an interception. So I go all back to A&M's number one problem right now is not Zach Calzada. It's not us mispronouncing names and making up new names. It's the offensive line.
Yeah, for sure. The other big thing came out, Ananias Smith had 2 really good punt returns. One of them called back from holding penalty. The other one, his elbow just barely grazed to the ground on I didn't know how he was able to keep his legs. He did, and then ran it all the way down about 50 yards. After that run, he left the game and didn't come back, was in street clothes for the rest of the second half. Jimbo Fisher said he just got a little banged up. He didn't know, couldn't say what exactly it was, but said he should be fine. I asked him as he was walking off if he was in concussion protocol. He said no. So Ananias Smith missed the second half of the game. He is a huge part of this offense, and you'd like to see him, if you're an A&M fan, in for Arkansas. We'll have to see how that goes through the week. Moose Muhammad is back there actually fielding punts in the second half of the game, and he didn't try to break anything off, but he did his job in just controlling the football and making sure that they didn't have terrible field position and that he caught the football. So,
yeah, I think that's a big key. The players that didn't play, also you rest Smith, because next week is a huge game. We can't emphasize that enough. And I thought it was very important. Anybody that's not 100% shouldn't be out there at any point and they are able to get Miles Jones a few snaps this week after not playing the first 2 weeks. So once again, all signs point to Arkansas. And who would have thought how big that game is shaping up? Because I didn't at the beginning of the year. I said, oh, yeah, Arkansas's got 19 returning starters, but, A&M's a top 5 team, Not a top 5 team right now.
In the secondary in Arkansas, that is really, really good, but we'll talk about that more next week. Defensively, the Aggies held New Mexico to 122 total yards. They were good. Don't get me wrong. The defense absolutely was going to win games for them. There was a couple of concerning times where they got gashed for large chunks of yardage on the ground and early in the game. That was a little bit concerning because it's kind of been a theme every now and then for the first 2 games. What do you make of? I mean, it's hard to completely bash a rush defense that allowed 2.5 yards per carry, 89 total yards. Hard to bash that, but what do you think of A&M's rush defense?
That's the problem. This is a really great defense. The quality of great, because I've got my concerns about the middle, because I think there are yards to be had there. Because one time, both linebackers went the wrong way. They did the delay. They got like 11 yards. But Arkansas, that's going to be 20 yards. I still have concerns about the middle of that defense, which is a linebacker play on running plays. And you know what? I knew this was going to happen. Why? Because I saw Terry Wilson struggle against this defense 3 years ago. He had the longest run, I want to say 3 years ago, was 6 yards. He had like net 4 yards. Certain matchups do not work well, and A&M's defense has Terry Wilson's number. When he was in Kentucky, they had it today. And once again, is A&M just overpowered? I think they could have played 12 quarters, and the only way New Mexico would have won is if A&M made a mistake. And, as Alex, you pointed out, until the turnover, an opponent hadn't run a play in A&M territory for like 4 quarters because what's-her-face, Colorado didn't do that in the second half last week.
Just going through it, Damani Richardson and Antonio Doyle Jr. led the team in tackles, both only with 5, but the tackles were a little bit spread out. Aaron Hansford with 4, Michael Clemens with 4. Of course, Michael Clemens and DeMarvin Leal combining with Tyree Johnson for sacks in the game. And that was a big part. Alex, what was your take on the defense?
Yeah, I think what we've noticed these first 3 games is that early on, A&M's opponents have, like you said, they've gotten some of those bigger runs. But what's notable is that as the game has gone on, A&M has adjusted really well to what their opponents are doing, especially in the run game. You think about how they were able to shut down Colorado in the second half last week. After that first quarter today, New Mexico really didn't have any huge runs until the fourth quarter when it was backups. And even then they didn't get much. So, the adjustments that A&M's been able to make, that has been kind of what I've focused in on as probably the biggest plus for A&M, even though they've given up some of those bigger plays that, at times can be concerning. And, if A&M can do what they did against Colorado in that first half, keep it close, get some big stops when you need it, that's going to be huge going forward when you're playing conference games and, you give up some early plays before you've kind of settled in and figured things out and not letting your opponent have a 2-3 score lead. That's where A&M's going to find itself winning games, I think, especially on defense.
2 questions to wrap this thing up. First, I know the thing that everybody wants to read, CC's grades. Give us a little bit of a Reader's Digest version of what some of the grades are.
I just started, but to me, it's a BC type of day because, man, they left a lot of points on the board. They didn't do a lot of things, and now that's not counting the defense. You got to give the defense an A. I think, you've got to be a real tough teacher not to give the defense an A. But the rest of the deal is you think even about special teams. I mean, the block that takes back a touchdown, the high snap, the offense, no offensive line, even some coaching calls, you might say, why did they do this? So I thought it was a CB type of day. When it started out as an A, 4 plays into the game for A&M, it was 14-0.
I think that we'll close out with this. When I look at this team and what they were able to do today, like Alex said, this conference, the SEC, is a conference in the trenches. It's what Jimbo said, big boy football. When you look at Arkansas coming up and heading into conference play, especially with how the offensive line played today, I don't see that as a SEC-ready team yet. and certainly it gives me some concerns, especially going into an Arkansas game that it's, for all intents and purposes, a rivalry game. It's going to be at Jerry World, and they always play A&M tough, and they're a physical ball team with a good defensive front. That puts a little pause on me saying that this team is SEC ready heading into that game. Now, I don't think they're far off, and it could be something that could develop, especially with some addition of some of those injured players back in through the practice week, but don't quite know if they're SEC ready. Cease, is this an SEC ready team?
Not right now. And I was thinking, I was watching that game today, and I think Sam Pittman, the Arkansas coach, who is a former offensive line coach, is a great motivator. He's going to show that tape, and he's going to show everyone of his offensive linemen, the defensive linemen, you can beat these guys. You can beat these guys one-on-one. Colorado did. New Mexico did. You guys can. And I think that the offensive line for A&M is going to grow up a lot in a week, because I think they're going to get the best, possible effort from every Arkansas defensive lineman. And SEC coaches are also going to figure out blitzes, because we saw a lot of guys coming on, right into Calzada's face. He's going to get a lot more of that from Arkansas. So I think, guys, we're going to see a great game in Arkansas. And I do think A&M will raise its level. I don't know how much they can raise it in a week.
Yeah, I agree. We'll break down more of that Arkansas game. Alex, real quick, your Reader's Digest answer of, is this an SEC ready team?
It's getting there, but not quite. If A&M wants to contend for titles, they've got a little ways to go. They're making forward progress. We'll see what happens when Layden Robinson gets back. You're encouraged by the way Zach Calzada played. You're encouraged by the way the defense continued to play. But this is still a work in progress, although you're kind of going in the right direction if you're A&M.
Yeah, Zach Calzada, like I said, is a good quarterback and a quarterback in the win games, but as he is right now, he needs a run game to back him up. They can't be one-dimensional, and that starts with the offensive line. You could see how frustrated Isaiah Spiller and even Devon Achane were getting beat up and bruised behind the line in today's game, and that's what needs to improve moving forward. But we can talk about that a lot in the week leading up to that trip up to Dallas to play Arkansas next week. In the meantime, be sure to go to theeagle.com and check your local lovely printed Eagle edition tomorrow for all the recaps of today's game. And we'll be back on Monday to break down that next game against Arkansas. Thanks, everybody.